Hey everybody, you're very welcome to In Forest and Lands. I'm Joe Price, Wilderness Skills Instructor. Behind the camera as always is Ida Olsen.
Hello everyone.
And I'm standing in 8 inches of marching powder in front of a shed full of orange things to talk to you today about Signalling 101, an inspirational video to tell you the basics about signalling and also some inspiration at the end. So stick around for this video. Happy New Year, welcome back, and let's get into it. So what is signalling? Signalling is basically if you get into trouble, you want a way to communicate that you're in trouble. Signalling kind of emphasizes around like SOS. If you want to think of that, have you ever seen a movie and you hear SOS, Mayday, distress calls? That's basically signalling. But in a hiking, outdoor camping perspective, it's wanting to be found if you're in trouble. You know, so you could be in a beautiful woodland like myself and Anita are here, and maybe you twist your ankle, maybe you get lost, and so on and so forth, and you want to be found. You need to be able to signal where you are. In fact, navigation is one of my favorite skills and one of the most important skills that I think anybody can sit down to learn. But navigation has a stepbrother, has someone that wants to be with it in the family. Navigation is what kind of gets you not lost, but if you do get lost, signaling is what gets you found. So when it comes to signaling, you want to be able to first have a way of communicating that you are in trouble. This is your phones, your batteries, your GPS systems, your SOS systems where you press your button and so on. But even when you do them, some of those systems are only good to within 5 square meters, 10 square meters, 100 square meters. And in fact, I'm standing in a 100 square meter space at the moment, and trying to pinpoint somebody in here is difficult. So you're trying to save precious time. So you may be able to get people to within 100 square meters of where you are, but then how are they going to find you in those 100 square meters? And that's where signaling comes into play. So what are the basics of signaling? Well, the basics of signaling, and the easiest way to remember it, is to always think in threes. 3 uses for maybe your equipment, 3 ways to be seen. You want to think big. You want to think really big. So the bigger you can be seen, the better. You want to think contrast, i.e. why you see everything behind me here is in orange. I have an orange hat. I carry orange pieces of equipment. You want maybe a big fire. Big. Contrast, and in threes. And the last 3 I'm going to cover later on in the video so as not to confuse you, but you're talking 3 blows of a whistle, 3 meter signs on the ground to be seen. So that is the basics of signaling. Big, contrast, threes. So what are some of the main methods of signaling that you can carry in the woods? Well, there are 2. There are these signs and blazes, as they are often referred to, that you can carry. These are brightly colored objects that you can suspend between trees or place on the ground in the snow so you can be seen from the air or from line of sight in the distance. So blazes basically come in the form of signal panels. This one here is from Forest Fundamentals. It's a brand new product that you're seeing in this particular video. I work very closely with Forest Fundamentals, and this is one that I've had a hand in helping Elvis come up with the ideas. But as you can see, like we said with blazes and working with the rules of 3, you want your signal panels to be big and have contrast, and you want to carry 3 types of signal panels. It doesn't always have to be signaling panels, but you want to be able to blaze orange here, there, and everywhere. This is my backpack cover, so I can cover my backpack up to be seen. I carry a hat, an orange hat with me, and when I'm out in the woods, especially during hunting season, as I don't want to be Dick Cheney'd while I'm sitting down on the toilet, a big bandana, and then the Yervin signal panel, and I carry all these in a designated signaling kit that you've seen in other videos. When you suspend your blaze up between trees, and this is also a great tip as well for anybody who's new to going out to the forest and you want to venture off a little bit further away from your camp. In fact, that's how I eventually first got into the world of signal panels, when I started solo camping and I wanted to practice my navigational skills and head off into the woods. I bought myself some signal panels so I could put them up around my camp, and then whenever I headed off into the woods, I had a clear line of sight to be able to get back to my camp. So if anything else, it's useful on a daily basis, not just for when you're Tom Hanks in the middle of the forest and you need to be rescued by the Canadian Air Force. A signal panel should be big, bold, contrasty. This one is also pink on one side. Very zesty, I hear you say. But it's pink on one side because of that contrast rule. There have been an awful lot of studies done lately, and although orange is the international color and is very contrasting against nature and the environments you're in, what they have found is that other colors are visible from bigger distances. Blues, yellows, and especially pinks, if you're in grassland too. So the Forest Fundamentals panel is pink on one side. You will notice that there is strips here and here and here, and also on the Yervin one. And these are so that if you happen to be stuck at night, because at night you can see the orange panel naturally. So if the rescuers have head torches or you have head torches, you have these reflective strips on the panels themselves. Bungee cords to attach it between trees or to lash on the ground. This Yervin one is made of a very fine sil nylon, which is great. You can carry many of them, and this is what I recommend if you want to do that, to carry many ways of blazing a signal. The reason why I carry a couple of Yervin ones is because it allows me to maybe put one on my backpack if I am walking. You see hikers do that up in the north of Sweden an awful lot. They will have an orange blaze on their backpack. I can also suspend multiple ones of these around the forest should I need it. These bigger, more robust ones, like the Forest Fundamentals one, is made out of a cordura. So you can actually use this on the reverse side or this side to prepare kindling and wood and everything else. And it also comes with the string that you need to attach it up. So that's blazes. Blazes cover that contrast section of what it is. But then what happens if you're again in a 100 square meter area like we are now, and you want to not just be seen, but you want to be heard? Well, then you step into acoustics. And acoustics are no different when it comes to signaling. They stick with the rule of 3. So 3 toots on a good whistle means help me. Perfect, easy to understand. So you get something like this. That's pretty loud. And the reason why we use a whistle, it could be quite obvious to some, but not obvious to others, is if you stand here and you're like, hey, you're not going to be able to do that for a sustained period of time. You're eventually going to lose your vocal cords. So a whistle is a great way to save energy. And if push comes to shove, you can lie down in the snow and just toot away to your heart's content. But having a good stout whistle, this is in fact my father's. It's from the Acme Whistle Company in England. And it's that old Bobby whistle. Anybody who likes Victorian films will have recognized that sound from the police whistles. But the reason why is because it's a solid steel construction. There is no ball in there. I can drop this in the snow, it can get wet, it can be sat on. It's a very robust whistle, and in fact I carry this everywhere I go, not just as a good luck talisman, but it's always usually in my belt pouch or in my pocket for that signaling thing. And it's even just great if you're out and practice with friends in the woods. But that falls into the rule of 3. 3 toots, come help me. The next thing as well, which helps with contrast, you want to be seen as a good torch, and you can do again the rule of 3, and this is what I'm hitting home with this particular video, is that if you have a torch with no strobe function, you can click it on, click it off, click it on, click it off, click it on. Simple, and that's a nice way to signal to people that you're in trouble. Just leave a break between the trees and away you go. So a good strong head torch or a spare torch is a good one to have for signaling. Another one as well, because again, we want to be seen. It's the contrast, it's the being big. You can carry a small light like this that has a strobe function, because I personally don't like strobe functions on my torches, because I turn them on in the tent in the evening time and I blind myself. It's like I'm in a disco. So carrying a purpose-built strobe light, this one was sent to me by the Trekking Bear, thank you. This takes up no space at all and they're very cheap, is another way to have a constant signal set up on your backpack or around your camp, so you can be taking care of that body core temperature to stay alive, keeping your fire going and stuff, without having to constantly send off signals. So a strobe light is a nice one. The next big one is signaling long distances to planes and stuff like that, and that's where signal mirrors come into play. Signal mirrors can be anything that is a shiny reflective surface. Here I have my compass, which has a mirror, a sighting mirror on it. But remember we talked about having 3 uses for your stuff out in the woods. Say, for example, a ground mat, a backpack cover, and then like say a compass with a signaling mirror. It just allows, should you fall into something, that your equipment has these other uses. Now I see an awful lot of people wondering how you signal people, but if anybody remembers when you were in school and you had that person across the classroom that maybe you didn't like or you wanted to irritate, you would take out your ruler, you'd take the back of your pencil case or your watch and you'd shine it straight into their eyes and they'd be like, ah, my retinas. That's basically what you're doing, except you're doing it over long distance when you want to signal to people. But if you have a distance to signal, there's a very specific way to line that up. So when you're out in the woods and you have a helicopter or whatever, or somebody across a lake that you wish to signal to, you want to be at an angle to the sun. If the sun is in front of you, all the better, but you want to be able to create this triangle where the source of illumination is 45, 50 degrees off to your right, and the thing you want to signal to is straight in front of you. And then you line up that target by giving it the V's. And you can practice this at home and you'll see that it works. So you can Put your helicopter, your house, your class enemy, or whatever you want in between the V's, and then you shine the compass onto your hand, or you shine the signaling mirror onto the back of your hand. And then if it is on the back of your hand, you can move the two. And when you find your source, what do we do? Hit them with the 3s. So when you find your source, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, and then you're done. Give yourself a break, bring it back up again. 1, 2, 3, break. 1, 2, 3, break. Simple. And then they can look down, see that you've decorated a shed to look like a hunting lodge and say, hey, this guy's in trouble. We need to go get help, or we need to do whatever else. So that is how you signal over long distances. Again, the rules of 3s. Also with the rule of 3, that I carry not just my compass on me, because maybe I get that lost. Hopefully I never lose my compass, but maybe my compass gets lost. So then I carry my first aid kit. You also have a mirror. You know, you should always have a mirror in your first aid kit for checking your face. You can use your compass for it too, but here's how you're seeing how I build my kits in 3s. So this is in my first aid kit, so I have a spare signal mirror. Then also as well, is you can carry something like this, which was a great gift from Jonathan MacArthur. This is something that you can hand out. This is Adventure Smart, and this is just a mirrored piece of card. And again, it has some rescue information on the back. You can see there, think big, think contrast, think 3s, again to remind yourself in a situation. And using the same principles with the forked fingers, you can use these devices to signal, or if there's several members in your camp, you can pass them out and multiple people can signal. So they are signaling mirrors or signaling devices, and that is how you signal over long distances should you need help. If you do not have signal mirrors, or if you do not have blazes and you don't have anything else, well then you got to think big and again contrasty and the rules of 3. You always got to remember that. And if you do that, the next thing that you can do is find a bit of an open space, because don't forget we're already lost, so hopefully you can check a map or whatever, but you need to find somewhere that's kind of visible to the sky. And then what you want to do is create a sign, again 3s, that it's at least 3 meters, 9-ish feet for our friends across the pond. And you either want to create a V, and you can do this using your clothes, using your tent, using the stuff that's in your backpack. You want to make a V on the ground, or an SOS if you fancy it. The V is always easiest, and if you've already called for help and people see that V on the ground, they're on their way to you. Another thing that you can do, once you put your V out on the ground, naturally not in weather like this, you don't want to undress, but to help people find you, there's a thing called spores, named after the guy who kind of penned the phrase. But you can take bits of your clothing. Maybe that's why I wear orange high-vis clothing and carry extra orange bits in my pack, is you can hang these from trees, so people who are on the trail around you, you can mark your camp or mark from the trail if you've lost or come off a trail. You can blaze. Again, that same terminology will come up over and over. Blaze a trail using your orange pieces of clothes or buttons from your clothing or hanging stuff from trees that's maybe from your backpack. And that's how you make some blazes if you have clothes and if you're in a nice environment that you want to do it in. But what happens if you have absolutely nothing and you're in an environment like this where it's -10 and you can't exactly put your shelter and equipment all over the ground to signal the sky? Well, that is where signal fires and the science of signal fires comes into play. And if you would like to see a video on signal fires, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you have any tips and accoutrements on what you carry in the woods that maybe you don't see here, what do you use for blazing? That's the best part of this channel, is finding out what different people use in their environments around the world. As always, this is my environment. I am in a snowy boreal forest, and this is what works for me. It is the basic minimum stuff that you should carry, and you see it in all of my equipment. And to hit it home again, for those who are watching this video on signaling for the first time, whatever you put in your kit and whatever method of action you choose to do when you get lost, think big, think contrast, think 3s. Catch us in the next video, and I love hearing all your suggestions in the comments. Peace!